which the administration has wisely urged Congress to approve. The federal government has completely exhausted all the public health funding approved last year as part of the American Rescue Plan. That means that to prepare for future variants, more federal funding is needed now. Across the country, thank God we've seen signs that we have a strong bill that has bipartisan support. We got 2 more votes last night, if you count the absentees who had voted yes, than we did on original passage. As I've said, Democrats are laser focused on passing legislation that lowers costs for Americans by fixing supply chain problems that have driven up prices.
That provides some financial relief to low-income households. A new report by the U.S. Census Bureau, the number of Americans living in poverty decreased when stimulus check payments were factored in. The official poverty measure, which is determined by the Census Bureau, indicated that 11.4% of people were living in poverty, an increase of 1 percentage point in 2020. The increase was the first after 5 consecutive years of decline. However, when looking at a more complete supplemental of poverty, which factored in streams of income like stimulus payments, it was found that the number of Americans in poverty actually decreased. The founder on the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities said a decrease from stimulus checks was proof that the federal government can help poverty levels. Now, Congress did pass already 5 bipartisan crisis response bills last year, totaling close to $3.5 trillion and signed into law by the former president. Now, though some of the federal aid last year was delayed for reasons from wrangling over cost to problems with distribution, President Biden's current economic plan extends a tax credit for families with children, which is seen as a strategy for reducing childhood poverty and its long-term consequences. For more than 8 years, Colorado Senator Michael Bennet has been trying to expand the child tax credit and help lift kids out of poverty. The maximum total expanded credit was worth around $3,600 per child, 5 and under. And now senior advocacy groups are continuing to urge congressional lawmakers. $41 billion was also paid to farmers. Workers in select industries could be eligible for additional stimulus checks of up to $600. The USDA recently announced $700 million in grant funding. It's available through the Farm and Food Worker Relief Program. The bulk of the money, roughly $680 million to be exact, will go to help farm workers and meat packers to help cover crisis-related health and safety costs. These costs include things like personal protective equipment, childcare, and expenses related to the crisis. Additionally, $20 million in grant funding has been set aside for grocery store workers. The Secretary of Agriculture said that we recognized our farm workers and meatpacking workers and grocery workers overcame unprecedented challenges, significant personal risk to ensure that people could feed and sustain their families throughout this time. They deserve recognition for the resilience and financial support for their efforts to meet personal and family needs while continuing to provide essential services. Unlike previous rounds of stimulus that involved direct payments, this one will be administered through grants to state and nonprofit assistance agencies. Agencies will apply for the grants this fall and must demonstrate the capability to distribute stimulus checks up to $600 to eligible workers. Many argue that the enhanced unemployment benefits were disincentivizing the jobless to go find jobs. Roughly half the governors in the country withdrew from expanded federal unemployment programs and cut their state's jobless benefit in June and July 2021 months before they were set to expire. The states that cut off their unemployment benefits early did not experience any significant improvement in job growth or hiring activity. A big increase has been approved for monthly benefits. Eligible to receive the stimulus card benefits, you must be a Chicago resident and have a valid city sticker for your vehicle. Now, data provided by the City of Chicago suggests that the median household income for a family of 4 is $93,000. According to local Chicago news stations, 75% of these cards will prioritize residents in community areas that have higher mobility hardship, while the remaining 25% will be distributed citywide. Now, costly gasoline prices could hamper the United States' economic recovery if it continues. So central is the price of fuel to the household budgets for millions of people. However, with an influence of factors sparking the recent price increase, a quick remedy seems unlikely. Inflation rates have been increasing sharply since August 2021 and have been out of the normal 2 to 4% range for a full year. The Consumer Price Index rose 8.5% for the year ending in March. And now, Jerome Powell said last week, it is our job to make sure that inflation of that unpleasant high nature doesn't get entrenched in the economy. This was after he announced a half-point interest rate hike to combat inflation. Still, people are struggling with rising costs, everywhere from the grocery store to the gas pump. Keeping prices stable is part of the Fed's mandate, but so far inflation has kept increasing higher. The GOP is already leveraging inflation to weaken Democrats heading into the midterm elections, as they argue that Biden congressional Democrats have only caused the problem. Do you agree with this, everybody? Tell me in the comments down below. We have a ton of good news, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI information that you want to know. Stay until the end of the video because you definitely don't want to miss out on this. Workers in other states will be receiving a $750 stimulus check, and just a few days ago, the office of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz confirmed that a bipartisan agreement had been made to provide frontline workers and small business owners with additional stimulus checks. In a statement, the governor said the state of Minnesota continues to show the country that a divided legislature can still come together to get things done. This bill provides hazard pay to frontline workers and relief for small business owners. Speaker Melissa Horman also said that the priority of the new package is to ensure that frontline workers who went to work every day, even during the worst days of the crisis, receive the bonuses that they were promised last year. Now, the plan was formally approved by the Minnesota House of Representatives in February. Now, Republicans and Democrats originally couldn't agree on who could be eligible for the checks, with Democrats working to make them available to a broader range of workers. While Republicans wanted the money to be directed primarily to first responders and nurses and doctors, an estimated 667,000 workers from Minnesota will be able to claim the check. And if you've got a tax return filed, whether it was before or after the April 14th deadline, a tax refund should be headed to your way very soon. That's if you're expecting one. If you file on time, your refund money should arrive within 21 days of filing, and as long as there are no errors and you file electronically instead of direct deposit. To keep tabs on your refund, you can start tracking your refund. You can start tracking it to your bank account after the IRS begins.
As amended.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
I rise in strong support of H.R. 2724 as amended, the VA Peer Support Enhancement for MST Survivors Act, introduced by Representative Delgado. VA has provided peer support specialists for recently discharged veterans transitioning to civilian life, veterans with mental health or substance abuse issues, and caregivers of veterans. Peer support programs have proven successful for these communities and may prove to be a beneficial tool during the claims process for survivors of military sexual trauma. Victim advocacy can serve as a bridge between survivors and the Veterans Benefits Administration adjudicators processing their cases. Within the MST context, a highly trained peer support specialist can serve as an advocate who can provide counsel, assistance, and coordination to navigate a process that may be stress-inducing and anxiety-provoking. If the MST claimant chooses to utilize the services of a peer support specialist, the MST claims experience may go more smoothly and potentially reduce the emotional strain on an inherently difficult process. This bill was amended in committee